Good day, dear students. Herewith, we are going to have an introductory lecture for the paper Principles of Literary Criticism for 3rd BA. Let us start with an understanding of the word criticism. What do you mean by the word criticism? Nowadays, we give a negative connotative meaning for the word criticism. When we by the word criticism, we mean a kind of negative comment. We mean a kind of bad opinion, or letting something down is what considered as the word criticism. But actually, the word criticism does not only mean a kind of negative comment, but the word criticism also involves a positive comment, a kind of positive outlook towards a work, a kind of discussion of not only cons but also the pros and cons of a work. Right? So, criticism does not only mean a negative commenting but also a positive comment of a work, or discussing the pros and cons of a work. The English word criticism is being derived from a French word critique. Please do note the spelling, Critique. The French word critique meaning a detailed analysis of something. So the English word criticism is being derived from a French word critique. And criticism is not something exclusive belonging to one art or tradition. Criticism is a part of all fields, not only art. Any field can have its own criticism. Only criticism can help evolution. So, criticism is a part and parcel of everything around us. And it is not exclusive to one tradition or a country, but it belongs to all the traditions and all the countries and all forms of art. Literary criticism is a study, an analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of a work of art. See, I want you to remember these lines. Criticism is a study. Study is a detailed, in-depth acknowledgement, in-depth understanding of a piece of work. Study. It should be a detailed study. And analysis. Analysis refers to understanding all the terms, all the features of a work, all the features of a work, in the sense, as a genre, a critic should know a prior knowledge, a good knowledge about all the features of the work. That's what here we mean by analysis. He should go for the literary feature, the character analysis, the author's perspective, the language, everything. It is a kind of multi-dimensional approach to a work. That's what here we mean by analysis. The next term is very important, interpretation. Interpretation is to help out the readers in understanding the work better. He should simplify a work of art for the understanding of the reader. That's what here we mean by interpretation. A criticism should decode the mind of the writer. It should decode what does a poem is trying to say. What is a poem or a work of art is trying to express. That's what here we mean by interpretation. So, criticism should study, it should analyze, it should interpret, and finally, it should evaluate. Evaluate is to pass a kind of judgment whether it is good or bad. What is so good about a piece of work? What is so bad about a piece of work? That's what here we mean by evaluation. So, criticism should be a study, an analysis, an interpretation, as well as evaluation of a work of literature. Then, a critic's general purpose in most cases is to enrich the reader's understanding. This is the first primary purpose of literary criticism. A critique should help the reader understand a work of art. He should function like a bridge between the writer and the reader. He should decipher, he should decode a work of art. Then a critic's general purpose in most cases is to understand the enriching of the understanding of the work. So, To sum up, criticism is all these things. It is an interpretation, it is a kind of a detailed study, and also a evaluation of a work of art. Let us know some of the important writers' definition of this criticism. According to Matthew Arnold, criticism should be a dissemination of ideas. Dissemination is distribution. Dissemination is spread of ideas in an unprejudiced, impartial way. Unprejudiced is impersonal. பாரபட்சம்னு சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா, that's what is prejudiced. So unprejudiced, பாரபட்சம் இல்லாமல். A critic should not praise a poet because he likes him. A critic should not put down a poet because he doesn't like him. So he should be impartial way, and it should be an effort to study and spread the best thing. What should a critic criticize? He should take for criticism a best known work. He should give the audience why is it a best work or why is it a bad work. So a critic should take out a best work and help readers understand what is best and what is not. Then coming to T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot is the author of The Wasteland, and he is also a Nobel laureate in the year 1922. Please do remember this. He is also the author of Murder in the Cathedral. And he defines criticism as an elucidation of a work of art. Elucidation is simplification of a work of art and the correction of taste. One of the important points that he has to say. Correction of taste. It is a critic's duty to correct the taste of the people. A critic should not praise a work because people like it, or he should not condemn a work because people don't like it. It is the duty of a critic to fix the taste of the people. For example, I hope you remember Joseph Addison and Steele. It is Addison and Steele who brought back Milton from the debris. Milton was condemned because he was a Puritan. People were not ready to read his Paradise Lost. It was only the criticism of Addison and Steele. The essays on Milton by Addison and Steele gave Milton's Paradise Lost a life. Now, no one can deny that Milton's Paradise Lost is very great work. So it is the duty of a critic to correct the taste of the people also. And T.S. Eliot also sees criticism as an impersonal process that is unprejudiced. That's what Matthew Arnold also had to say. Right. Another important point is critics, rather than expressing a critic's emotion about or impressions of a work, a critic should not be emotional in judging a work. He should not let his emotions judge a work as good or bad. He should be free from his emotions. That's how he even defines poetry. According to T.S. Eliot, poetry is not an expression of emotion but an escape from emotion. Okay. Okay. When did it begin? When did it begin? When did criticism begin? Probably from the date of the existence of life. We cannot say that. We cannot say that in this date, in this time, criticism took its birth. No, we cannot say that. When man was born, criticism was born. When man started to see things, understand things, use things, criticism would have born, definitely. He might have liked something, he might have disliked something, he would have had reasons for liking and disliking, and he would have passed comments, he would have given some feedbacks, he would have had his own opinions and advices. All these things are criticisms only, but in different terms. So with this perspective, we are going to approach this paper, literary criticism, literary theory and criticism. Let me introduce you to the topics that we have to cover in this paper. Our unit 1 comprises literary theory, literary history and literary criticism. This theory, history and criticism are so closely intertwined with each other that we cannot study them separately in watertight compartments. As we study the theory, we move towards history. We move down the ages in history. When we study the theory of Plato, Aristotle, we'll be studying 55 BC and literature in 55 BC. As we move on with other theories like romantic theory, we'll be studying the history of 18th century, the works of Wordsworth and Coleridge. That's how history, theory, and criticism are closely packed with each other or closely tied with each other. We cannot separate them. Then coming to unit 2, we will start with classical criticism. We'll start with Plato, Aristotle, Horace, Quintilian, and Longinus. Plato and Aristotle. Plato is considered as one of the early critics, one of the first critics, the father of classical criticism. Plato. Plato's student was this Aristotle. Plato was the student of Socrates. So we have Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and Alexander the Great is the student of Aristotle. So Plato and Aristotle set the norms for literature. So we start with Plato and Aristotle in criticism. Then we slowly move to the contribution of Horace, Quintilian, and Longinus. In Unit 3, we have orientation of critical theories, a kind of introduction to critical theories. We'll start with a mimetic theory. Mimetic word comes from the word mimesis. Mimesis meaning imitation. That is, believing all art is imitative. Art imitates real life. With this approach, we have other approaches, other theories like pragmatic, mimetic, and we'll be studying the writers like Sir Philip Sidney, John Dryden, Dr. Johnson, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Matthew Arnold, and T.S. Eliot. Of all these, Sir Philip Sidney and Coleridge are romantic critics, whereas the other four, Dryden, Johnson, Eliot, and Arnold, are classical critics. Then Unit 4 and 5, we are going to have 5 approaches, of which first 2 approaches will be covered in Unit 4. Moralistic approach and psychological approach. Moralistic approach is an approach where the critic tries to identify the places where the author tries to moralize the readers, advise the readers, correct the readers. And in psychological approach, we'll be studying the psychological setup, the mental behavior of the characters, as well as the writer. Then we have archetypal approach. Archetypal approach is an approach which tries to trace out the uniform pattern available in the literatures of the world. For example, all the literatures will follow certain norms. For example, all the literatures will punish bad and reward good. That's a kind of an example for archetype, which we could see in the literature of any country, the literature of any tradition. Similarly, tracing out similarities, similar patterns available in the literatures of the world is what we call as archetypal. Sociological approach is the study of the society, the exploitation of the people, somewhat like that. Then we have formalistic approach. Formalistic approach will study the form of literature. If it is going to be a novel, it will study whether the novel has all the features of a novel. If you are going to approach a poem in a formalistic approach, we'll study whether that poem, for example, epic, has all the genres, all the features of that genre. For example, epic will have a preposition, invocation, deus ex machina, then in medias res, Homeric similes. So, in a formalistic approach towards an epic, we will be studying out these elements, the availability of these elements in that epic. So, this is how we are going to approach our paper, literary criticism. If you have any doubt regarding this lecture, you can post your doubts in our WhatsApp group. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible, or else I'll start my next lecture with the clarification of your doubts. Yes, thank you. Thank you, children.